The VA pacemaker 10% rule is real, but it is not final.
The premise is wrong whenever may becomes does.
Professor Osei studies federal disability rating systems. VA published the proposal on January 30, 2026, under Diagnostic Code 7009. There's one thing the current rule and proposal share. We'll test it later.
The proposal would add a 10% minimum after pacemaker implantation or reimplantation for symptomatic bradyarrhythmia under that code. The verb would must stay attached to proposal.
The comment period closed March 31st. That means the public comment stage ended. It doesn't mean the proposed text automatically became law the next morning.
So what is the fastest reality check?
Open the current ECFR, not a repost of the proposal. As of July 19th, Diagnostic Code 7009 still says 1 month at 100% after discharge, then the general rating formula. It doesn't display the proposed 10% minimum.
That current text is the controlling visual. A future final rule would need its own publication and effective date.
Picture Dana discharged after a pacemaker procedure, finding a headline that says guaranteed 10%. She should save the article, then compare it with the current regulation before assuming her rating changed.
For the record, the proposal is real, but the 10% floor isn't in current Diagnostic Code 7009. It concerns symptomatic bradyarrhythmia requiring permanent pacemaker implantation under that code. Not every pacemaker or heart diagnosis. Coming up, the evidence test that survives either outcome. Let me pause for just a second, because this genuinely helps. If you are getting value here, hit that like button, then subscribe and ring the bell. It costs you nothing, and it is the single biggest thing that keeps these videos coming.
Dana's current rule works by date. Discharge starts a short recovery stage, but that stage doesn't answer the later rating.
What happens after 1 month? Does device presence decide the rest?
Now change the case. The temporary month is over. The general rating formula applies. Or rather, the evidence under that formula controls the later evaluation.
The boundary is time. Current code 7009 says 100% for 1 month following discharge. Then the formula takes over.
Device presence isn't enough. Dana's symptoms and workload capacity matter, along with heart failure history and other qualifying evidence.
So the reusable sequence is implantation, discharge, 1 temporary month, then evidence-based evaluation. The proposal changes the floor in that later stage. It doesn't replace the medical story.
That premise stays wrong. A rating above 10 isn't a command to cut it down to 10.
Correct. Minimum means a proposed floor, not a ceiling. Any actual rating decision still has to follow the applicable evidence and law.
Dana writes her discharge date beside her current decision. That simple pairing tells her which period VA was evaluating and prevents the temporary month from being confused with the long-term rating.
Then the first document to read isn't the proposed rule. It's the current code and her own decision.
Professor Osei is back at the desk while we test why VA proposed a floor under 7009.
The agency compared it with Diagnostic Code 7018, the existing code for implantable cardiac pacemakers.
On the proposed text, code 7018 already provides 1 temporary month at 100%, then evaluation under related rhythm codes with a minimum 10%. VA said 7009 should align with that structure.
Same device, inconsistent floor. That's the agency's problem statement.
It depends on which diagnostic path applies. I wouldn't collapse every pacemaker case into one code. The proposal aligns a minimum, not every medical and legal fact.
Fenrir, nor would it extend the 100% period. The proposal addresses what happens after that period, not how long the temporary evaluation lasts.
Bella, test the formula. At 0, the proposed floor matters. At 30, 10 does nothing.
On the proposed text, Yes. A minimum protects the bottom edge. It doesn't replace evidence that supports a higher evaluation.
So the proposal can be favorable without being magic. It would close a floor mismatch while leaving the rest of the rating analysis intact.
Dana's medical notes still matter because a floor answers only the lowest possible evaluation under that code after implantation, not the full severity question.
That is the constructive takeaway. A proposed floor can help without replacing the evidence that supports a higher rating. Before we get to Dana's evidence file, one boundary test comes first.
Rapid test. Would the proposal grant service connection fourth?
No. Service connection remains separate. That threshold survives this proposal.
Would it reduce a 30% evaluation to 10?
No, like saffron rice with proper tahdig, the bottom layer matters. A floor is a floor. It doesn't become a ceiling.
Minimum isn't maximum, fine. But, if comments are closed, why isn't it effective?
Because closed comments aren't a final rule. Publication and an effective date still have to arrive.
Medical evidence stays too. The current and proposed structures both continue beyond the device itself.
Exact claim. If finalized, code 7009 adds a 10% minimum after implantation or re-implantation.
That sentence is less exciting than guaranteed new rating, and much more useful. It tells Dana what to watch for without telling her a change already happened.
Fenrir. Neutral reporting isn't timid reporting. It's the difference between helping someone track a rule and sending them into a claim with the wrong authority. Coming up, the medical file that remains useful under either outcome.
What can Dana do now? Build the evidence file that matters under either version of the rule.
Black coffee can wait. Start with the discharge summary. That one anchors the temporary 1-month period.
Add the implant or re-implant report, device information, cardiology follow-up, medication history, and the testing used to describe current function.
Then add the symptoms that appear between appointments: fainting, shortness of breath, fatigue, swelling, or other changes described accurately and reported to the clinician.
The formula reads medical evidence, not what Dana remembers in one exam.
Keep the current rating decision too. It identifies the diagnostic code, effective date, evidence considered, and reasons for the assigned evaluation.
Sarah, walk with me. Dana's folder works even if the proposal never becomes final. It supports the current formula and makes any later rule comparison faster.
That's paperwork advice I can't attack. Useful under both futures.
And if the condition worsens, don't wait for rule-making news to seek medical care or qualified benefits advice. The proposal isn't a treatment plan and isn't a deadline to ignore symptoms. She marks the discharge date, every follow-up, and the date she last checked the current regulation. That is a timeline she can actually use.
We're back at the desk with Professor Osei for one last check. How do you track this without treating every Federal Register notice as an emergency?
I can't speak to an individual evaluation from a headline. Track 3 records instead: the proposed rule page, the current ECFR, and the veteran's own decision. Each answers a different question.
That keeps the medical record in the room too. Dana discusses symptoms and testing with her clinician instead of waiting for a policy headline to explain her heart condition.
She hunts 2 words: final rule, then the effective date. Publication alone isn't immediate effect.
If a final rule appears, compare its exact language with the January proposal. Agencies can change text after comments, and the final preamble explains what was adopted.
Then her own decision gets the final comparison. Diagnostic code, evaluation period, evidence, and effective date. That prevents a general rule update from being mistaken for a completed personal rating change.
I fought the headline. Proposal pending, rule unchanged, evidence useful.
Professor Osei, that turns an anxious headline into 3 documents someone can actually open.
To be precise, that's as far as general rule tracking can go. A person's evaluation still turns on the decision and evidence.
Set one monthly reminder to check for a final rule and its effective date. That is enough. The clock should prevent rumor chasing, not create a new daily emergency.
My recommendation is simple. Bookmark the proposed page, current rule, and your decision as 3 separate records. Send this to the pacemaker veteran who saw the 10% headline. Like this video and subscribe if you want the next VA rule change checked against what is actually in force. Would a 10% floor change your case, or does your current evidence already support a higher evaluation? The line to remember is proposal first, current rule second, personal decision third. Keep the labels straight and take care of yourself. Thanks for watching.